Welcome to my Jesus story. I'm Kristen,
And I'm Kim.
and today we're here with Kevin and Barb.
Hello.
Hi.
So, welcome to our podcast. We usually start out with a question like, how did you meet Jesus, or where did you meet Jesus?
hmm Well, for me, I grew up in the church in Bethel Baptist. My family went there. We had all of our friends there. I was heavily involved in youth group there, and that's where I met Christ. It was funny because they had revivals every year, and when I was 12, by the end of the revival, I knew I needed Christ. But I waited a whole year before the next revival. And even after the revival, I never went forward during the revival. I waited till the Sunday after it was finished and went forward. So I was 13 when I accepted Christ. And it was years later before I really knew who he was and how he impacted my life and how I could depend on him. And so it came kind of full circle for me.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Um, I guess for me, I didn't grow up in the church. My family was, they were good people, but we didn't go to church regularly, maybe on Easter Sunday and Christmas. And I can remember growing up thinking that, wow, they build these huge buildings for 2 services a year. I just didn't, my parents just didn't.
Yeah.
But then in their later years, they did. And I think really meeting Kevin is when I started attending church regularly. And I think that's when my journey began. I think I figured out that my walk became real when we went through the illness that our daughter experienced when she was little. And he became very real to me then. But as a young person, I didn't have that relationship. And I think once he and I got together and once I had children, I realized I needed him. I needed him. I needed that comfort. I needed that peace of knowing that there was someone bigger than me looking out for the people that I love.
Right.
And it's been a journey, but it's been great. And I can't imagine people going through life without a relationship with Jesus.
So, Barb, do you remember is there a moment in time where you believed in God, but then you were taken by the trust or the love that He has for you? Like, is there a moment, or was it kind of like a building up of?
I think it was a journey for me. I think a really powerful moment. I've always been a control freak. And, like I need things to happen on my terms.
Speaking my language.
My timetable. And it's really hard to just the faith thing, just to live out on faith was just really hard. I need tangible things in my life. And so for me, when Aaron got sick and I didn't, first of all, I was really angry. I had a relationship with God, but I was angry at him because I think the only thing I prayed for once I had children was that God would protect them. That was my daily prayer. Just watch over them, let them grow up, let them have a future, keep them healthy and strong. And
how old was she when she got sick?
She was 7 when she was diagnosed and 8 when she had her bone marrow transplant. So it was, at the time, her diagnosis was terrible. And the prognosis was not good. And so I was angry for a little while, and then I remember after she got diagnosed, my prayers were so raw and so desperate, like, please, take the beating heart from my chest and give it to her. If you will, if that's what it takes to heal her, I'll do it right this minute. Do it, do it, do it, do it. But I just kept praying and praying. And every night it was the same prayer over and over again. And I told Kevin at times it felt like it was just bouncing off the ceiling because it was the same prayer. And I felt like God was just like, again, really? Why don't you trust me? You've trusted me with the little stupid things in your life, but now that you've got something real, for whatever reason, like you don't trust me.
It's hard, yeah.
And I just told him at one point, I was just so mentally exhausted from the battle. And this is before she even went to transplant. I was just so overwhelmed and mentally exhausted that I finally just, you just get to the point where you're like, okay, whatever your will is, even if it's not what I want, whatever your will is, Lord, then I, I accept it and we'll go with it. And it was like it was transformational for me. Once I actually physically went through that step of like saying, okay, I'm a control freak and I want to fix this more than anything I have ever wanted in my life. But whatever your will is, I'll accept it. It was kind of freeing in a way to hand it to him, to truly hand it to him and say, okay, I'm going to give it to you. And I mean, it was always in his hands, but it was for me personally, it was that breaking point for me when I just said, take this cup, Lord, and do what you will. And just, stay with us through this journey. And he did. I mean, he really did. But that was a turning point in my faith journey, because I did, at the time, like I said, we got through the day. It was so overwhelming, and we were so afraid, and we were, we're trying to track down doctors and where should we take her for her treatment and stuff. And so finally, when we finally made the decision of, where she was going, I said, at the time, we just got through the day. We survived whatever came up during that day. But as I look back on it now, I truly can see his fingerprints all over it. And it's so reassuring to me, because when I talk to people now, or when I pray for people now, I believe, I know he's there. And I know that you can count on him when it's good and when it's bad. He's right in the trenches with you. So.
Right. So let's get a dad's perspective on that same subject.
Yeah. I mean, that was when things turned around for me. I was raised in the church. I knew who Christ was. I did all the things that teenagers do. So I didn't always follow where I should be. But when that time hit, like Barb said, when faith is all you got to depend on, he becomes very real. And so, like she said, we did our share crying and went through all the stages of anger and grief and all those sorts of things. And it was in our devotion one day, it was Jeremiah 29:11, where, we heard for the first time that he had a plan for us, and it was a good and perfect plan. And it was for our benefit. And we took that, and that was a time where at least I felt he really revealed himself for the first time. And after that, like Barb said, you felt like when you prayed, those prayers were heard. Before that, you just felt like you were praying and praying and praying, and nothing was happening, but we were praying for our will. And that's not where he wanted us, so going through transplant, it was a day-to-day thing. We didn't worry about tomorrow. And it's amazing. We were so blessed to be in this community. We had just one example. People at the water company got together and they paid our water bill one month.
Wow.
So we never missed a bill. We never missed a payment. We sent our tithe every week. And we were in Minnesota for 4 months, and we're not working, and our jobs gave us leave, and and God provided every day. And so there were some scary moments, and there were some anxious moments, but I don't think we ever doubted, because we trusted in him, and regardless of what happened, we were ready to accept that. Of course, we knew what we wanted,
for sure,
but we had to accept where he was taking us, and so everything turned out great. We saw, a lot of kids that she went through transplant at the same time, all with the same prognosis, all with the same relative, treatments and everything, and not everybody made it. And so, you almost felt guilty at times that she did so well right up until the time we were due to come home. She got Epstein-Barr virus, which is the same thing as chickenpox.
Yeah.
And it was really damaging.
And she had no immune system,
Right.
so that was really scary. Yeah. But,
so the treatment that they gave her for that was crazy. I mean, it was almost like a chemo quality type treatment, and it was kind of scary. But she came through it, and she's doing great today. I mean, she's 28, so we're celebrating her 20-year anniversary. She's been a nurse, or she is a nurse. She's been at Children's Hospital for 10 years this summer. And she's worked her whole career on the bone marrow transplant floor. So she spent a lot of days and nights there post transplant. But we are so grateful for every hand that's touched her through this process. So God's directed it.
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
So you had said when you were 12, you knew you needed Christ, but you didn't do it till you were 13.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the holdup was?
It just, for me, I was kind of introverted at that time, and to walk down that aisle.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a lot to get up out of your seat and walk down the aisle. And at 12, I knew it was the right thing to do because I grew up in the church, but I don't know that I had the right mindset yet. And so at 13, it's like, yeah, I got to do this. I want to do this. And so it was a lot easier to get up and go down the aisle and accepting him as my savior. So
was there a things that you learned along the way that prepared you at 13, like that year's time? Were you kind of reflecting, or?
No, I just think it was another year of maturing. I wasn't mature enough at 12, I guess. God knew when I was supposed to get up and march down.
Right.
And so I think that entire year I probably dwelled on it, and maybe at some time was like, I should have gone, but I didn't. And so I think that made me even more willing, that next year to say, yeah, I got to do this.
That's cool. Yeah. Barb, do you have a time frame just when you were older?
It was, when Kevin and I started to date, he had been through a painful divorce. And so he hadn't been going to church because he and his previous wife had attended together. And I think it was just very awkward and uncomfortable for him. And I really didn't know that. But one day I was at his house, and his pastor stopped by the house, and he, just for a visit, just to check in on Kevin, because he knew it had been a hard time for Kevin. And it was my first experience meeting him. And so we sat and we talked for a long time. And after he left, I think I began to realize this is really important for Kevin. This is something that's been missing from his life. And I told him, if it would make it easier for you, I would be happy to go to church with you, thinking I was this benevolent person who was going to help him get back to, not ever dreaming that this was going to help me more than I ever imagined in my life. And so we did. We went back to church, and I think we went that Sunday, and we've been going ever since. But that's when my journey began. It's because of Kevin that I'm in the church today. It feels like I'm dissing my parents. And in their later years, they became very faithful Christians and attended church regularly. But growing up, we just didn't. So I was always grateful for Kevin's, for a lot of things related to Kevin, but for bringing me into the church and for exposing me to Christ. It was life-changing, and it's been a journey since then. But so many experiences you go through once you get married and you have children and stuff, and it's like, I just don't know how people get through life who don't have that. Right. What do you lean on when the day is challenging or your fear is huge? And what do you lean on? It's like, I can't imagine a day without that.
Well, that one of our questions that we ask sometimes is, do you find peace with God that you don't have or find without him? Like if you've fallen away, or if you've, as an adult, you have maybe peace that you had anxiety as a teenager.
I think I have had anxiety as an adult, And it's funny when I'm doing my devotions, there's some mornings where, like my stomach will be in knots just over, work or worry over my adult children. Now I've moved on from worrying about their health, and now I worry about everything they do,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't know. I'll read my devotion and I can feel it's a physical experience where just the peace comes over me, and whatever's churning in your stomach, it just stops. And I'm like, this is all I have to do I don't know why I have to be reminded every morning, what are you doing? Just, go to Christ first. Go to him first thing in the morning, and your day is going to be a whole lot better. I can tell you. But it's a physical experience for me. I'll read his word and I'll read my devotion, and it just washes over me like life is good, and it gives me peace that I can't get any other way.
What do you have peace, Kevin, that you don't
Oh
get
yeah.
without him?
Oh yeah. Like she said, I went through that divorce, and it wasn't that I fell away from God, but I was ashamed. There had never been any divorce in our family, and none of our friends or friends' family, and here I was going through this thing, and I didn't know how to deal with it really. And I felt like I disappointed God, and I disappointed a lot of people, and that, I wasn't the person that I was professing that I was. And, I was really torn up for quite a while. And then when I met Barb, again, that was a God thing. That was one of those things I can remember telling my mom after the divorce was final that that's it. I'm never getting married again. I'm never. And, God had, again, other plans. And Barb and I had met through another friend, like back in high school. And so it'd been several years since we had even seen each other. And we reconnected and became friends. And we were going out as a group of friends for a while. And just little by little, our friendship just continued to grow. And those other friends fell away, and they were doing their own thing. So it was like, hey, you want to go out?
Oh, that's
so,
cool.
And it built our relationship. So
That's super cool.
yeah.
Why should people seek Jesus?
Like Barb mentioned earlier, I think so many people are looking for peace. And whether it's through an addiction, whether it's through whatever, they look in all the wrong places. And since I've known Christ and the things that we've gone through as a married couple and a family, I don't know how people would make it otherwise. So, got anything to add?
No, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. I don't know how people get through life without Christ. That is my source of peace, whether it's, peace over my children and family, peace at work. That's my source. So I don't know. I watch people, and I feel like the world is very angry right now.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
just so much, people are looking for reasons to be mad. And it's like, if you just, and you see people falling away from church, it feels like, when I was younger, or when, youth groups were huge and churches were full on Sunday mornings. And it's like, people think they don't need it anymore. And I'm like, if people just realized the peace that comes from a relationship with Christ, I think churches would be packed every Sunday, that people would be waiting outside to get in the building. But like you said, Kevin, the things that people pursue now to get peace are never gonna, it's never gonna work. Christ is gonna be, he is my source of peace.
Yeah. But once people find out that you have forgiveness from God for things that stupid things, everybody did stupid stuff.
Exactly.
Unending love. Like, well, I lay down at night, and sometimes I'm like, yep, you screwed up today. Good job. Tomorrow's a new day, though. Let's try it again.
That's right. That's right. And that he forgives you for, like you said, he forgives you for everything. So it's like, yeah, there's that helps me sleep at night.
Yeah.
For sure.
And there's things too that I think a lot of people too think life with God is boring. Like, I don't get to do the fun stuff. But it's for me, it's been the opposite. I get into things and I'm like, how in the, like this podcast, how am I here?
Right.
Well, God's going to help you figure it out. You do more exciting things outside your comfort zone.
Right, that's true. Well, and then when you do go through those, and everybody does, you go through those really, really difficult times. I don't know what you lean on. How do you sleep? How do you cope? How do you? It's like it becomes automatic. You just go to him, and he gives you that peace. And so, I look at people that try to live life without him, and who. It's interesting. I work in a company, and I work with great people, but a lot of the younger people that work there don't go to church. And I think that they are very they don't see the value in it or the need for it. And I watch them go through life, and I think, you know what, you're missing out. You don't realize it right now, but life is easier when you have that source of peace and comfort in your life. And if I couldn't lean on God, I don't know what I'd do.
Well, I think it's interesting. You talk about finding peace, and it's like John 16, I think it's verse 33, and Christ is telling the disciples that very soon he's going to be leaving them, that they're going to scatter to their hometowns, and they're not going to be with him anymore. And he says, "I tell you these things that you will have peace, because in this world you will have trouble." And so many people look at that verse and say, you're going to have trouble. It doesn't say you might have trouble, you will have trouble. But the first part of that verse is, "I tell you these things so that you will have peace." And so I keep going back to that too.
So that leads to another great topic, which is like favorite Bible, not the most inspiring Bible stories, Bible characters, parts of the Bible. I love Noah. That guy's obedience is overwhelming to me.
You got one?
You go first.
Well, I just spoke on one of mine, which was Peter walking on the water. I think a lot of us can relate to Peter, because he was kind of an idiot sometimes. He was very brazen sometimes, but I think he wanted to prove his faith in Christ, and for that, he was one of Christ's favorite disciples, and Christ told him that, "On you I'll build my church." But I think Peter walking on water, Christ said that, "You have little faith," when he started to sink. "Why did you doubt?" And it always struck me, because it's like, I don't know that I would have gotten out of that boat, and he threw a leg over in the middle of a storm, and everybody else is scared and wet and tired, and he got out of that boat. And it was like, and it seems a little harsh, but what Christ was telling him is that your faith isn't mature yet. So the duration of your faith wasn't there. And through that, Peter's faith just grew and grew and grew.
Right.
So,
right.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite stories anyway. There's
A
lot of them.
Yeah. Well, after you gave that message, what hit me was Peter was in a man-made construct. He was in a boat. Right. He was in a man-made physical, thing. But, if you take it metaphorically, like in his mind, Jesus is out of the boat. You've got to get out of the boat if you're going to grow. Right. So in my brain, there's a lot of times where I'm like, get out of the boat.
Right.
Go to Jesus, because you're holding yourself back. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. But no, I think about that same thing.
Yeah.
It's, the times, when our church changed their leadership structure and came up with elders, I immediately went to the Bible to find out what an elder was. And I felt, I'm not qualified to do this job. And, but it was one of those times where Christ was telling me, get out of the boat. You're here for a reason, and I'm going to use you. So,
yeah.
I think for me, this isn't like my favorite part of the Bible, but the most impactful part of the Bible for me is like Job, because I find myself sometimes looking at like what he went through, the trials and the pain and the agony, and yet he didn't waver in his faith. And so there are times when I'm like wavering and I'm like, look at Job, God rewarded him for his faithfulness. And it's a difficult part of the Bible to read for me, but I really do appreciate his faith. And I don't know why, but that is a very impactful part of the Bible for me, to know what he endured, and that he never wavered in his faith. And it inspires me to believe and to be stronger in my faith when life is difficult. It's like, listen, you're doing better than Job.
Right. All right, Kristen, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a favorite Bible verse or story?
There's a lot of them. I don't know. The one that keeps coming to mind is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I mean, in thinking about it, we've talked a lot about it in our Sunday school class. Just God's gonna walk through the fire with you, no matter what. He's gonna be there. So, but character-wise, I feel like I relate more to Peter and Paul. So,
do you have anything that you struggle with regularly that you want help with from God, or you just want him to take it?
I think for me, my struggle's my own head sometimes. I get in my head and I overthink things, and I come up with so many scenarios that I confuse the subject of what it's even about. But I think for me, we're getting into another part of life's journey. I retired, a year and a half ago.
Congratulations.
Barb's getting ready to retire. And so, after working 40 plus years or 40 years at the same place, but, jobs before that, but, after working all that time, you were in a routine and you were getting a paycheck and you were doing this. And, you got to the point where you weren't really worrying about things. And so entering into this next phase of life, it makes you rethink all that and, where are we at and how are we going to make it? And all those things. But, again, I think we've matured so much in Christ that we both felt, when I stepped away from work, I knew it was time. Things were getting to me that never got to me before. And you just know that it's time to step away.
Okay.
And Barb's finally got to that point now. And so in knowing that, it makes me feel more comfortable that, we don't know all the details of the future, but, he's brought it this far. Why aren't we going to finish the game?
So there's definite a faith that you've developed over the years.
And it's faith that at least for me, I got to keep in check almost every day, because Satan's always there nibbling at your ear. And so you start having all these crazy thoughts and, anxious moments and doubts and you just got to realign yourself back to Christ and that he's got this. And I don't need to worry about it. I've handed it off and I got to depend on him to go ahead and take it through.
So what does that look like to a person who thinks they identify with what you're saying when you say realign? What are you actually doing in your brain?
In my brain, it's just like my prayer is that Christ, take this. I have this doubt. I don't know why I have this doubt. I know you've got it, but take this from my thought and realign me to what your goal is. And more times than not, like Barb mentioned earlier, it's, all of a sudden you read a scripture, it's in a devotion, it's on a bumper sticker, it flashes up on your news feed or something that God says, I've got this.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And so that's that daily thing that, you're always realigning yourself and making sure that you're putting Christ first, and everything will be fine. Doesn't mean you won't have problems.
Right.
Doesn't mean you won't go through things, but he's got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think as you get older, you begin to look at your life differently. As you're getting in your, I say twilight years. I hope I'm not in my twilight years, but I do feel like my time is, it's more valuable now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm looking for purpose in what I do every day. And I felt like I love my job and I work with great people, but there was no real purpose there. And as we've gotten older and our family has grown, and you look for, I want to do something more meaningful, whether that's dedicate more time to church or things of the church, or pour into our grandchildren, and so that they never question whether they're loved. And I want to do something purposeful. And so that's part of the reason that prompted me to decide to retire this year. And I'm really looking forward to it. And it was a God thing. I feel like he had said, you'll know when the time is right. And it's like God, he nudges you. He put the idea in my mind. It's time to pursue something that matters to you, that matters in the big scheme of things. Long after you're gone, pour into something now that matters, not just go in and work at a keyboard all day and do the dumb things that I do at work. And so I'm really looking forward to it. And while it is a big change, like he said, I've been getting up every morning for the last 40 plus years going into work. So it's sort of like it's going to be a huge change, but I'm excited about it because I know God's in it. I think he's prompted me to do this. He's got a plan for all of us, and I'm just along for the ride, and I'm excited about it. And I'm not, like over the years, you talk about the loss of your income, but I'm not worried about it because I feel like over the years we have trusted God with our finances. There was a time when we wrote a small check every month to church, every week when we go in, our tithe. It was just a little pittance we put in there, and we would pat ourselves on the back for being such great Christians. And then we heard a sermon about, if you're not tithing, you're 10%, you don't trust God. And I was like, oh, that's offensive. How could we be doing that? Anyway, there was a whole series on it. And so we went out on faith and we started tithing 10%. And it was a huge difference from what we had been giving. And Kevin I think he'll attest to this too. We never noticed it. It should have completely obliterated our budget. And it didn't. I don't know, call it whatever you want. It's like magic. But every week it was there. We never missed a tithe. We never missed writing the check, and we never noticed it. It didn't change our lifestyle at all. And so I feel pretty confident that when we make the decision, when I retire, I'm going to turn it all over to him and say, it was always your money, Lord, so do with it what you will. I mean, if we have to make a few little lifestyle tweaks, I'm fine with that. I am so looking forward to using my time for things that God wants me to use it for, instead of just going in to get the big paycheck. And it's like, I can't wait.
Well, I think what was interesting, looking at the tithes, you're right. We thought at the time that we got challenged that there's no way we can do this. And we never missed it. And even now, since I've retired and we haven't changed that amount. Now I'm not bringing home near what I used to, and we still have never missed it. I don't know how.
What is your advice for someone in a low or a high?
Say that again.
What is your advice for someone in a low or a high?
In a low or a high?
Okay. Huh. That's a good question. Life is a roller coaster. And I don't know if you've heard the song Flowers yet. You heard that one? The artist was going through a tough time, I think with cancer or something, and was questioning why they were going through it. And it came down, long story short, that she was planting seeds that she didn't know, but said it's in the valleys where the flowers grow. And so I think it's, the highs are great and you enjoy those, but it's the lows that you really get to know Christ and really depend on him and really mature. So you got anything?
And 100%. That's exactly what I would say. It's like that's when you draw closer to God, is when you're in the lows. That's when your relationship really becomes tangible, and that's when you really figure life is easy when you're in the highs. It's like you don't even need God, but when you're in the lows, that's when you realize how dependable he is, and that's how I get through the lows. I can't imagine going through the lows of life without having that relationship.
So I'm looking at the lyrics of that song, and it's Flowers by Samantha Ebert.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out Samantha Ebert. Lord, why are you keeping me here? Then he said to me, Child, I'm planting seeds. I'm a good God and I have a good plan. So trust that I'm holding a watering can. Then someday you'll see those flowers grow in the valley. Wow. Wow. That's good.
Stuff.
Yeah, it is. That's a good lyric. You have children. So did you probably made a pointed effort to get them in church.
Okay.
How do you have any advice for parents as far as pushing too hard, not pushing enough? Like what's the happy medium to keeping kids in Christ?
I think you push as hard as you can when they're young, make it a habit. My oldest daughter's from first marriage, and that that added an aspect to try to keep her in church. And I didn't have as much influence on her as I did the other two girls, but she's grown up great. She loves Christ, and my granddaughter, her oldest daughter's just turned 14, just accepted Christ this past summer, or
wow.
what?
Yeah.
A couple months ago, actually. And so in talking to her, you can see that excitement in her. And so for our other girls, we drug them, just like my mom and dad did with me, we drug them to church every week. And I don't know if it was where they wanted to be every time. And, as they got older, they were kind of making their own decisions, but they both, are back there, and that's how they make their decisions today. So you plant the seeds.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. Good reference. Yeah.
Well, and we kind of made that a priority. There was a time when they were younger where the youth group wasn't strong. It wasn't, they weren't being fed at all. It was just go and play dodgeball. And so when we came to this church, that was one of the things that I was most excited about. One of the reasons why we really made a decision to stay at the church we're at now is that they had a really strong youth program, and our kids plugged in right away. And then we got involved. We volunteered for years with the youth program so that we could be with them. You always feel bad when you're a full-time working parent, but to have those experiences with them on the weekend campouts and just a Sunday morning, it was an amazing time, and it was good for the kids. And then when our girls became adults, they both moved out of the Bethel area, and so there was a big church that opened in Eastgate, and it was convenient for our one daughter especially, who loves music, and they had really, really great music there. And she kept saying to us, you got to come just to hear the music. And we love the church that we attend. We love them. But we ended up going to listen to the music with her. And because our adult children, even our daughter that lived in Northern Kentucky, who's a nurse, she isn't always off on Sunday mornings, but when she was, she would come to this church in Eastgate. And we made the decision, as difficult as it was, we made the decision to attend church in Eastgate with them, just so that we could continue to worship every week with our children, who are adults now. but it gave me great joy every Sunday, even though we had to go and buy lunch for them every week after church. It was the best money we've ever spent because, we did that. We continued to worship with them. And then, Katie and her husband ended up coming back, and now they're part of the worship team at our church, which I'm so grateful for. But so we've all kind of worked our way back to Bethel, and I'm thrilled about it because this is our home church. And even when we were going in Eastgate, the joy of worshiping with our family was wonderful, but my heart was still here in Bethel. So now having them back, and especially in having them in the worship team, like Kevin alluded to, they have been foster parents. And there are times when Katie's really anxious about the process. It's a long and drawn out thing and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? You're doing a lot for God through your participation in this worship team. You're touching lives, and he knows this. He's given you this opportunity, and he's placed you there. So he's with you. He's with you through the fostering. He's with you when you're participating on Sunday mornings, and you just continue to be faithful to him, and he'll be in this situation. So it's just really, it's very, very rewarding for me to look up and see our kids up on the stage on Sunday morning leading in worship, or the music in worship, and I love it. I wouldn't change it at all. And I'm just so thrilled that it's come full circle and that we're back to our home church, and our kids love it, and I'm really hoping that our grandkids have the opportunity. Yeah, and we'll have the opportunity to grow up in this church, and who knows, we may end up volunteering in the youth again at some point in not too distant future.
So you guys have spoken a lot about like trials and support and prayers. So can you speak a little bit about the importance in your perspective of having a church family that you can lean on their shoulder, ask for prayers, that kind of thing?
And I think it's so important, whether it's family, friends. We have some dear friends that we've been friends with forever. I mean, 50 years probably. Well, some of them I went to school with, so yeah, 50.
Oh, okay. You then, 50 for you.
But to have people that know you, know about you, and you can go to them in the blink of an eye and say, I need help, I need prayer, and to know that they're there for you. It builds up your strength. There's times that you're down and struggling. That's the time you can lean on those people and know that they've got your back. And likewise, they do the same with us, and they know that we have their back. Some of our friends, we always told our kids that if you can't come to us and talk to us about something, go to them.
Oh, nice.
And because we knew that they would give them the same advice that we would. So it's good to have them.
That's good parenting advice.
Well, and I know for a fact that prayer has carried us through so many situations when, we've gone through the tough times, and it means everything. And personally, when someone gets a hold of us and says, will you pray for us? I consider it one of the greatest privileges that you can have is to pray for somebody when they're going through a hard time. And again, we have great, great, great prayer warriors that have been with us over the years. And I literally could not be more grateful, because there is nothing when you're in the valley or you're going through a hard time, people can bring you a meal, or they can mow your yard or something, but I'm telling you, I covet their prayers. It's like, I will take that any day, and I am grateful beyond measure. And I happen to strongly know, I believe that prayer is what carried us through some of the most difficult things we've had to deal with as a family.
That's why we believe in small groups and Sunday school classes. It's those intimate groups of people that you really get to know that, again, when you need prayer, they're there for you, and they know how to pray.
there's a vulnerability that comes with asking for prayer.
Oh, sure.
Women, I don't think have an issue with that. Men, I feel like, have a little bit harder time asking for prayer. So speak to the guys out there about opening up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm a softie. so I've learned that I can't do it on my own. And it is hard for guys to say uh, they're not adequate to take care of a situation.
Mm-hmm.
But again, to know the strength that you can draw when you have other people praying for you, once you've been down that road and you feel that strength and you know that it's not your own doing, and just the fact of being able to open up, if you've got something on your mind or something's really dragging you down or you're anxious about something, just the ability to let go of that is somewhat cleansing as well.
Probably like the first time is the hardest.
Yeah.
And then it becomes easier after that. Yeah. That's good stuff.
Well, and I think with age comes wisdom. You become more comfortable with it as you get older, and you are less uptight about, sharing maybe an area where you feel like you're failing or whatever. It's like it doesn't feel, I don't feel vulnerable anymore. I'm just so grateful to be able to have these prayer warriors that I can share things with and know that they will drop what they're doing and they will go to the Lord on our behalf. That's humbling too. Like, gosh, that's huge. But as I've gotten older, I'm a whole lot less. And again, I'm a woman, so it's been easier probably all along for me. But I'm grateful for the prayer warriors that are in our life. We have some amazing, amazing friends, and it has carried us again through a lot.
All right.
You're sitting on a bench with Jesus. You look at him and say, what?
Oh, man. Save the best one for last, right? Thank you. I mean, and I'm sorry, for all those times I messed up and I know I disappointed you, but thank you for sticking with me and forgiving me and teaching me. And I think that's about it. I don't know. But yeah, that's a tough question.
No, I would definitely say thank you. I am grateful for the people, this life that God has given me and the people that he's placed in my life. But I would also have questions because I feel like he's receptive to that. Like, why do children get sick? And, there are tragedies that happen every day. And I so struggle with that. Like I think I'm empathetic. And there are times in life when you just don't have words. I want to comfort people. My instinct is to comfort people. So I would want to know. And I know in the big scheme of things, it's like, this is just a little blip in time, and that, when tragedies happen and kids get sick and terrible things happen, it's not forever. But I would want to understand better, like, what's the purpose? Why do children hurt and why do bad things happen? But first and foremost, it would be thankful because I thank you because I'm so grateful for the life that we have and the way that we've been blessed and how he's carried us through good and bad. And I am very, very grateful.
Well, thank you guys for coming on the podcast. And thank you for listening to today's episode. Join us next episode for another encouraging testimony on My Jesus Story podcast.